All right, we'll begin the public safety meeting for Thursday, January 4th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I do want to real quickly welcome our new commissioners, Commissioner Arndt, Commissioner Christensen, and Commissioner Peak to Public Safety, so welcome. We'll start with the agenda addition and changes.
There are none.
All right, seeing none, we'll move the motion to move the agenda. Move it, Commissioner Drosha. Or, I'm sorry, is that Commissioner Holmes? Sorry. Support by? I'll support it. Well, all those in favor? Aye? Opposed? All right, agenda approved. Any limited public comment? Just for rules, since it's the first public safety meeting for the year, we try to keep that under 3 minutes for public comment. I'll keep time on that. And for the commissioner's sake, when people are commenting, there's really no back and forth. We're really to listen to that person or that party. So just keep that in mind. Any limited public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, there'll be a time at the end of the meeting for another one also. Sheriff's Office report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Highlights for December of 2024. Starting a new year, we'll see how this year goes. But anyways, on December 3rd, deputies responded to a home invasion, Park West Drive. Suspects kicked in the apartment door where the victim had been asleep when they made entry. So the suspects tried to push the bedroom door open, but the victim was able to hold the door closed. The victim observed 2 people wearing ski masks outside the bedroom. Suspects fled, but some partial prints of the boots were obtained. Deputies are following up with the apartment complex Plumtree for camera footage. On December 5th, there were 6 vehicles involved in 3 different crashes on Kreitz and I-496. There was also a semi-tractor that jackknifed on I-96, which was leaking gas. There were several more crashes which occurred while deputies were dealing with these crashes. County Patrol received numerous calls for service just after 6 p.m. As you know, 6 p.m. we don't have road patrol anymore in Yelp County. There were several calls still holding, even with 6 troopers on duty. December 6th, we assisted Charlotte Police Department. They got a call to the Treetop Trail to arrest a female suspect who had pointed a gun at her daughter a couple weeks ago. She had a felony warrant from that date and an outstanding retail fraud warrant. County Patrol and Charlotte Police Department units were able to make the arrest. December 8th, deputies responded to a criminal sexual conduct complaint, Runaway Bay in Delta Township. The suspect had paid to transport 2 juvenile females there who were wards of the state out of Ohio and were escapees from a group home in Lucas County, Ohio. The suspect had the juvenile females transported from Lincoln Park, Michigan to Lansing with intentions to engage in sexual relations with them. The suspect was arrested and lodged for the following offenses. First offense, transporting a person or facilitating travel for prostitution, which is a felony. Prohibits knowingly transporting or causing to be transported any person for the purpose of prostitution, which includes paying for their transportation. Violating this state is a felony punishable by imprisonment for up to 20 years or a fine of $20,000. Second charge, soliciting, accosting, and inviting to commit prostitution or immoral acts. The 2 juvenile females were lodged at the Eaton County Youth Home to be turned back over to the Ohio Youth Facility. December 10th, deputies respond to reports of a stolen vehicle at the Canal Apartments on Bramblewood Drive. Deputies also investigated several larcenies from auto complaints in that area where the vehicles were stolen. We still got a high crime rate of larcenies from vehicles up in Delta. Most of them are juveniles. A lot of windows get smashed out of vehicles, and but they're doing a good job trying to catch these kids. December 12th, we investigated a missing person, Allegan Road. Eaton County Detective Bureau is currently investigating the disappearance of a Gregory Pennington. He's a 42-year-old male from Nashville, Michigan, and suspect had a foul play may be involved. Pennington was last seen on November 14th, 2024. This investigation is ongoing. December 17th, deputies investigated a fatal car versus pedestrian crash at Canal right in front of Copart, which is a auto parts establishment. Copart advised the deceased they were closing and that he had to load the car he had purchased onto his trailer off their property. The deceased was walking back to Copart to get the vehicle when he was struck by a drunk driver. December 19th, county had around 35 crashes come in between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening. County patrol cars took a few of them, but MSP had around 12 crashes still holding when our county units ended their shift at 6 p.m. That's going to happen probably more often in this winter with all the snow that we get and the slippery roads after they freeze up. December 22nd, deputies investigated a stalking complaint at the Amazon warehouse on Kreitz and Mount Hope in Delta Township. The suspect, Mr. Hawk, can't pronounce his first name, Quavius, had been stalking a female at the Amazon warehouse and brandishing guns at employees. The suspect also had felony weapons offense arrest warrants out of Flint. Deputies made contact with the suspect, who was at the Dodge Dart in the Meyer parking lot, in the Meyer parking lot to the south of Amazon warehouse. Suspect was ordered out of the vehicle. He refused, put the car in gear, and almost ran over several deputies while fleeing. The suspect collided with 3 patrol cars and fled on foot. The suspect was taken into custody after a short foot chase. I'm glad we got some speedy deputies. 1 patrol car was badly damaged and 2 had minor damage. The suspect was arrested and charged with several criminal offenses. Christmas Eve, Ace Reynolds in Grand Ledge called and a complaint about a missing equipment they had rented to a male residing on Benton Road. This person from Benton Road called and reported at the same time that it was stolen from his driveway. The equipment had a GPS tracker on it. It was located in an address on 7 Mile Road in Detroit. Our Detective Bureau obtained a search warrant to get the equipment out of the garage there, and $50,000 worth of equipment was recovered. December 26, county units assisted Charlotte Police Department. They had 3 juveniles breaking into cars at the Harbor Farms Marijuana Dispensary located across from the Sparrow Eaton Hospital. One of them mentioned he had a gun to the witness and mentioned like it was in his pocket. MSP came across a stolen, broken down car on Cochran and I-69, which was registered to an address in Kalamazoo. That vehicle was stolen. It was believed these juvenile suspects were the ones who were driving it. County units were helping look for them when Sergeant Larson spotted them on Sumter Street. They took off running into the woods. A MSP K-9 team came and tracked them. One of the kids was caught in Arby's. The other 2 were spotted outside Butternut Apartments on Lansing Road there, but took off running through the golf course. Eventually, all 3 were taken into custody. Multiple people reported their car windows were being smashed out in the area. Obviously, the suspects were trying to steal another car. But it was a very busy month. And keep in mind that these are just the highlights. You know, the deputies do take other reports throughout the month. So I just kind of give you the highlights of what the major stuff is. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Sheriff Rake. Any questions for Sheriff Rake? Commissioner Holmes.
When they recovered equipment down in Detroit, were they able to see if there was other equipment that had been stolen by chance from the local people or local agency looking there?
Yeah, they do look, and I mean, this is one big piece of equipment. And I'm sure if my detectives, when they get to do a search warrant, if there's other stolen property there, they would have identified them. But it was basically this $50,000 piece of equipment that was recovered.
Correct, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Sheriff Rake? Commissioner Peak.
What was the name again of the missing person?
I'll have to go through my records here real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Gregory Pennington.
Thank you. And then you mentioned a couple times that there was calls on hold after 6 p.m. And that's is that on every day, or just when we had like the accidents and things like that?
Every day at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
MSP are the only ones that are on duty. Elk County does have not.
Okay.
Have deputies out.
Right. Okay. And but the calls on hold and
That particular incident, if it's snowy, the roads get slippery, there's going to be crashes, no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
And that's when they start stacking up.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Sheriff. Looks like next we have the statistical report.
So these are the reports from the sheriff's office. The first two that you'll see are the security screenings. The first one is our courthouse security screenings. So you will see the number of screenings that have occurred for the entire year. So the 71,424, the county that's the total courthouse side, and then the county offices side, which is the admin wing here. And then what's been confiscated, and chemical agents and anything other that they've screened for. So for new commissioners, it's something that we do and they take statistics on. And if you have questions, I know our court security deputy is out front, and I believe the chief deputy is out talking to him right now. But if you have questions, they'll come in and answer them. Do you have any? Yeah.
Commissioner Peak, go ahead.
Sorry. I would just what can you give me an example of what a chemical agent is or what other might be?
That's a great question, and I will go to the undersheriff right now since he's close up front, so that I don't say something like hairspray.
It's usually a personal defense spray, like a pepper spray
Okay.
or a CS spray, something like that. That
Okay.
somebody's carrying that we don't want them to take into the courtroom.
Okay, and then like an other, there's a what would that one example of an other be? Because there's a column here that just says other, and there's
It could be something that is viewed by our court security people as a potential weapon.
okay,
That has either been, they have then taken it or asked them to return it to their vehicle.
okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Deputy Hafner is here if you want to just, do you want to just give a summary for the new commissioners? Deputy, just so they know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Deputy Hafner, Court Security Supervisor. I caught part of that on the meeting minutes, and then I missed part of that. But essentially, the categories that we count are the pistols. Obviously, we're not bringing those in. We do recognize that with the admin wing, we used to be able to bring those in. We changed that about 2 years ago, where everybody in the courthouse, the building overall, is a weapons essentially free area. So the others might be something like a lot of times things on a keys. Could be a Swiss Army knife or something where it's not really a weapon per se, but it's maybe a needle, crochet type longer, which could be like an ice pick, but it's not an ice pick. It would be something that would be probably in a lady's purse, something that somebody's not thinking about that we view as that weapon item that will either keep it, they'll pick it up after the end, they take it back to the car. Any other questions I can answer for you?
Questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right,
So we will give these reports, try to do them quarterly so that you have them, but the annual report, I think, is pretty important for you to have, too. The next report is the jail count summary. So these are the number of inmates that are housed in our jail. And the first column is the total that are in the building, and you'll see that the average for the year is 188. The county has a jail capacity of 374. So we are not at half capacity. And you can see how that's fluctuated. It also shows the Eaton County population, which are inmates that are housed here that were sentenced to Eaton County or are awaiting trial. The other is female population. That's reporting that we have to do state-wise. Then there are accounts that we have that we house inmates for the state. One are MDOC. You'll see we take in parole violators and diverted felons so that the state is not housing them in the prisons. Saves the state money. It does bring in revenue for the county. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit so you have an understanding. The IDRP is a program that we can house inmates, and we're bringing in money. I'm not going to completely explain it. To get details, we'll have the undersheriff talk about that. And the RAP program, again, is the same. So you can see by looking at it that we're bringing in a significant number of inmates that we're receiving revenue for. When you look at the 3 columns, MDOC, IDRP, and the RAP program. The thing that I want to talk about is in relationship to revenue, and I don't have the actual financial revenue report in here. I need to change it up because there was some information that wasn't clear on the report that I had received. Last year, and we're talking fiscal year, not calendar year, last year, the Sheriff's Department, the jail itself, brought in $927,000 in revenue for housing inmates from other entities, state of Michigan. We had budgeted only $675,000. So they made $256,000 above what they budgeted. That tells you that felons are coming over to the county and utilizing our jail space. Obviously, you can see that there's more jail capacity, and we could bring in more revenue if we could house inmates from other counties that maybe had jail construction or challenges in bed space. And we used to do more of that. It's just that that's kind of changed statewide, and sheriff and undersheriff can talk to that. But I want to make sure you understand that there is a capacity for housing. There's also strategy to housing and how you house inmates because of the population type. I see the undersheriff nodding, so I always feel good that I'm saying the correct things. So there are challenges within the system and maintaining the balance of maximum, minimum, medium security. So I don't know if you have questions for the sheriff, but I want to make sure you understand that the county brought in $1 million in revenue, and that's great. But we can't rely on that revenue when we're balancing the budget. And since we're talking public safety and we have a public safety millage coming, this is great information for you to have. It's great work that the sheriff's office did, but it's never going to be guaranteed revenue. And I want you to remember that we have to fund a jail. That's a mandated function of the sheriff. So just keep that in mind as we go along and start discussing the budget, but mostly from a policy perspective at this level. It's important information for you to have and to pass along to anyone who has questions. And again, we're always here to answer questions. The sheriff, undersheriff, and his command officers are all available as well. So if you have questions for the sheriff or undersheriff.
So my question is, obviously, with potential for revenue, it goes or comes down to staffing. It would probably be the number one thing as far as keeping that alive and keeping that process going.
Well, most definitely. If we're going to add more inmates to our population, our jail is built to house 374, but the more that you add, the more challenges you have. If you were to talk to the state of Michigan and the annual report that they do, they're going to tell you that we don't have enough staff. Right? Your corrections deputies are going to say the same thing to you. They have safety concerns potentially. If we're going to do it where we're at the best safety capacity for our, and I'm not saying that we're not, because our officers do a tremendous job and the sheriff runs a great jail. So, but if we're going to do it and add more, we're going to have to add more staff. That's for sure, because it's safety of the inmates and of the officers themselves.
Okay. Any other commissioners with questions on that? All right. Thank you, Connie.
Did I overwhelm you too much already?
Good information.
Did I do all right, Sheriff? Okay. Thank you.
All right. That concludes your statistical report. Moving on next, Central Dispatch. Kelly.
Good afternoon, Kelly Cunningham, Eaton County 911 Director. Before I dive into my report, I'm happy to talk about holding calls. So when we run out of our resources, so in this case, law enforcement officers in a given area the calls hold, we always turn them over to a command officer, so like a sergeant working the road. And the particular day Sheriff Reich is talking about, it was busy with accidents. There was 6 troopers on duty, and basically all the resources were being used. So we hold them, we let command know, and there is a wait. That is very common, especially with like slide-offs and bad roads, traffic accidents. But obviously we prioritize. So if someone is on a car accident and a major call comes in, that's when they would prioritize that and maybe leave the scene of that car accident to go deal with maybe like a domestic with a weapon, that type of stuff. So there is, during the day, MSP does have 1 trooper per car, but after midnight, so if they say there's 6 troopers on, that means there's only 3 cars. So after midnight, because they do not have cages, and so they don't have the divide from the front to the back seat, they double up. And so it would be 3 trooper cars, but 6 troopers working. Any questions on calls holding before I move on?
Any questions for Kelly?
Nope, okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, so for new faces, I'm Kelly Cunningham, Eaton County 911 Director. I have been here for over 18 years, started as a telecommunicator, became a CTO, supervisor, deputy director, and now director. Francis DeVetter, he is my deputy director. He started the same year as me, so almost over 18 years. And he also worked his way through the ranks, so we have sat on the, we can actually dispatch. Sometimes we do. It's scarier when I do than he does, but. And Francis is also the Hamlin Fire Chief. It's his part-time job. So that is us. We have 16 dispatchers, 6 supervisors, an executive assistant, and clerk receptionist. Our clerk receptionist enters all the court orders, so your warrants, your personal protection orders, she does that. And we are obviously open 24/7, and we dispatch for more than just the Sheriff's Department. We dispatch for 8 law enforcement agencies, 13 fire agencies, and 6 EMS agencies. We are fully funded through a millage. We do not take any money out of the general fund. And then we also have a surcharge. So the millage pays for our general operations, and then we also provide all the computers to all the law enforcement vehicles, and that is what gives them the call that goes from dispatch to their patrol cars. Some of them higher up have those calls that come to their actual cell phone, so they have access to a program where they could see all the pending calls and go en route that way. And then for fire departments, there's a iPad that has the program on it, and it's in the first out fire truck in every fire department. And then they also have station computers, and then their MCTs are in all of the ambulances. So super brief overview. And then the surcharge is $1.65 that is on the cell phone bill, and that paid for the radio infrastructure. So in 2019, we went live with the Michigan Public Safety Communication System, and that is a statewide public safety communications system that all of our radios are on. So dispatch owns all the radios, manages them. Francis does the hard work with all that. So we maintain those, and then also the infrastructure. So there's a tower behind dispatch. You'll see them throughout the county. And the debt should be paid off soon. Next month, I will come to you with the projections. So early in the year, I show you the surcharge projections, what money it's bringing in, what our debt is still on the radio infrastructure, and what future plans we have for radios. So there's certain things that we could get data, AVLs. I won't bore you with all that right now, but I just wanted to give the new people kind of a brief introduction of our funding and what we are. We do pay a cost allocation plan. So basically, I'm not, funded out of the general millage and accepting general millage people, for example, like technology services, they come out of the general fund. So we pay a cost allocation plan, and it's all broken down into formulas, and Melissa is very good at it, and she could show you the ins and outs of it, but it shows what central dispatch pays into the general fund for the services we receive, like human resources, technology services, maintenance, all that stuff. So
Any service department that the county has.
Treasurer's Department, all that stuff. So that is a brief overview, and on to my monthly report. Telecommunicator Lane Powers attended a 40-hour advanced dispatch. It was hosted right at our center, which saves lots of money. I don't have to pay for housing for a whole week and meals, so it makes it a little bit better. It is a state mandated training, so she has completed all of her state mandated training now and will be required to have 24 hours of continuing ed just for dispatch. And then I did have telecommunicators and a supervisor attend the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. It's called Alert Training. It's held at St. Lawrence Hospital campus, and it is law enforcement officers in the Tri-County area that learn how to respond to active violence, so an AVI situation. And one thing you'll find about our county is that all of our responders, police, fire, EMS, are really, really good at including dispatch. So a lot of times you'll hear dispatch in other counties complain how they're the forgotten agency, where, in a building behind a headset answering the phone, and no one thinks twice about them. Our agencies are not like that at all. They include us in all of their training, anything and everything. They try to make sure dispatch is a part of that. Also, our uninterrupted power supply, UPS, it was our battery replacement. What this does for our building is when the power goes out and before the generator kicks on, the UPS holds on so that all of our computers don't crash per se. So it is expensive because it is a beast of a UPS system, but we are making sure that we're on top of our maintenance, and the batteries were just replaced on that. We are communications unit support. We did provide communication support for the 2024 Grand Ledge Night Lights Christmas Parade and the 2024 Eaton Rapids Christmas Parade. And for all these events, you will see where it says Incident Radio Communications Plan created. So I am a COM-L, which is a communications unit leader, and I will make communications plans so it is very clear of what talk groups they use and what to do if something happened at that parade and it became a major incident, of how the responding units who are going to help them, what talk group they would be on, and how we would coordinate all that. Every first Saturday of the month, we conduct a outdoor warning siren test. So we do not own all the tornado sirens in the county, but they are on our system. So we do the monthly testing for those. And I work with emergency management. If there is pending bad weather, we make sure we get the word out that we're going to cancel that test for a Saturday. But otherwise, it will be the first Saturday of every month at 1 p.m. We do have telecommunicator Haas. She completed the training program. So fortunately, she came from Grand Traverse County, and so she had a little bit of an accelerated program because she had experience. She's doing great. She's on her own and a great addition to our team. We still just have one opening for a telecommunicator vacancy. We did offer a conditional offer for that spot. They're in the background phase of that, but we did have 3 pretty good additional candidates that we have on a hiring list, so that if there's a vacancy in the near future, we could pull off that list, which we are very grateful for. I did mention this last month, but telecommunicator Wandacott helped deliver a baby girl on December 17th. Mom called me literally hours after this birth, and she wanted to make sure she reached out to Ashley and let her know she did a great job. And the news got a hold of it, and it went a little viral. I did have CNN call me. And they did air the story on CNN, and I did let ex-Commissioner Lotzenheiser know as he sat at his last meeting and said, ESPN, CNN and Fox News are not calling you. And then the next day in my office, CNN called me. So, so I blame him, but no, it's good news. So we're happy that it did make national news. And Mom actually reached out to me today to come meet Ashley and the baby. So. We did have a telecommunicator meeting, so we take all the telecommunicators, we meet with them once a year, and we set goals, talk about what we could do better and what's going great, and they all had a positive outlook, and morale is looking really good right now. So we're happy with that. We do have Supervisor Rich Thacker, who submitted his letter of intent to retire on May 31st. Of this year. So we are working on supervisor. Per our union contract, we offered the supervisor vacancy internally first. If there's no takers or someone that didn't pass the process, that would be then put out externally. And then Deputy Director DeVetter, Supervisor Jones, and Telecommunicator Brown taught the Michigan Public Safety Communication System radio training to the 10 new Eaton County Sheriff's Department deputies, and I think that went well. They were eager to learn and asked really good questions. So myself and Supervisor Howland presented staffing in the 911 world, how to hire and develop employees and create a desirable work environment to encourage lifelong careers. We taught that virtually to it's called the Dare to Be Great conference that has over probably 2,000 attendees and had like 6 different countries on it. So that was cool. And we are unique in the fact that we are one of the few 911 centers, knock on wood, that does not have a staffing problem. And that is all I have for my report.
Questions for Kelly? Commissioner Christensen, sorry.
Backing up, in your original opening, you had said there were 3 cars with 6 troopers for MSP. Are those just for Eaton County, or do we share those 3 cars with other counties as well?
So that's a tough question.
Sorry.
I don't manage MSP, but generally speaking, troopers could be assigned to counties and that's where they work, but they can be pulled to other counties.
Okay.
So if something's happening in Clinton County or Ingham County, they can be pulled there. Just listening to radio traffic and kind of observing during the night hours, sometimes they do have to do follow-up and they'll say that they're out of service and in Clinton County. So it's really hit or miss on what we have, but after midnight, they have to double up. So if you hear that there's 6 troopers on, it's 3 cars. Now, dispatching, so non-priority calls, we send usually just 1 law enforcement officer to that call to handle it unless there's some suspicion that it could get out of control or it's maybe like a frequent flyer that has caused issues in the past. But most high priority, not most, but all high priority calls, we send 2 officers to. So it's good in that sense that if there's a high priority call, they're already doubled up and in the same car. But then you are also losing out on some with lower priority calls because it's taking up 2 troopers rather than just 1.
Thank you.
And one thing I forgot to mention, if any of you would like a tour or even to do a sit-along, so we would give you a headset and you can listen to the callers, the radio traffic, feel free to contact me and I'm happy to set that up. We're open 24 hours, so we could make any time work.
Other questions for Kelly? And, since Kelly did remind me of that, I think it's really important for you guys. If you want to observe, I know I rode with the Eaton County Sheriff's Office before in the past, and that was a great experience. I need to do that again. But get involved, see what these programs do. So, all right, no other questions for Kelly? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on next, report for emergency management.
Yep. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ryan Wilkinson, I'm the Emergency Manager. Ella Gardner's over here. She is our Emergency Management Specialist. Small but mighty office of two, but we get a lot of work done, and I like to highlight some of that on a monthly basis. Just to give you some really quick background, we're a mission support agency, kind of a strategic direction agency tasked with building capability before, during, and after emergencies and disasters that occur here in Eaton County. The simplest form that I like to put it for people is think of us as like bridge builders, right? And I put that in quotes. Dealing with all these different islands of interest, police, fire, EMS, different agencies, organizations, private sector, nonprofits, faith-based organizations. All these different islands, we try and build bridges across them and connect them so that way we can coordinate and collaborate in times of emergencies and disasters. That's what our agency does on a day-to-day basis, building capability for the county. Just to highlight some stuff here in the last month, one of the big things that we've been digging our heels on for all of 2024 is our plan synchronization. You're gonna see a lot of requests on next month's agenda to approve different plans that we evaluate and maintain through our agency. Things like continuity of government, continuity of operations, emergency operations, multi-hazard mitigation planning. All that is going to be on your agenda because we're trying to sync all of our plans into one evaluation and maintenance schedule. I've been talking about this for at least the last year with the vision of to execute on it for probably the last 3 or 4, and we're down to like the last 30 days. So really exciting on my end. We'll explain more next month when that comes on your agenda. A couple other things just to highlight, a couple exercises that we participated in. We work closely with University of Michigan Health Sparrow Forensic Pathology on fatality management and mortuary services planning. At their invite, we went and attended an exercise over in Oakland County with medical examiners from across the state of Michigan to continue to have our conversation of, what could happen and how do we coordinate that response across the medical examiner's office, which has different laws and authorities that they have to abide by. So we work closely with them, and we got invited to that tabletop exercise over in Oakland County earlier in the month. We also brought in our Emergency Operations Center public information officers that are qualified. We're still working on some of their certifications and credentialing, but we brought them in for kind of a micro exercise earlier this month in the Emergency Operations Center. Just put them through a little stress test with some of our systems and processes and procedures. Just to kind of round out some of the other things that we're doing, I did include a 1-year progress report for our multi-year strategic plan within your packet. So we build out 2-year multi-year strategic plans, and that's because we're kind of a short-term sprint office. We can really see that, and we can kind of execute over the course of 2 years versus what you may typically see over a 3 or 4 or 5 year plan. So on a every 6-month basis, as we work through the completion of this plan, we just try and provide you some sort of progress report of the different milestones that we complete over 6 different goals, 11 different objectives. You'll see that in terms of us having completed 2024 now. We got 1 more year through this cycle. And once we get through that plan synchronization after next month, like I talked to you about earlier, you're going to see a lot of those milestones start to get checked off, which is really, really exciting. So that's in there for your viewing. We do a very big public information and education process as it relates to the multi-year strategic plan. We post it on our website. We post the progress reports on our website. And then now that we're looking towards the end of 2025 and into 2026, we're going to start putting together what our plan looks like for the next 2 years beyond that, and eventually do a very big public information and education campaign, stakeholder input, all that stuff, which you'll be included in, which is exciting. Last thing to touch on, and this is kind of the first plug on it, but Severe Weather Awareness Week happens every March. You see the public information and education campaign really start to ramp up late February, early March, but we're doing a first in the nation to the best of our knowledge. We are going to be conducting a Tri-County Wireless Emergency Alert Test, and it's going to be a cross-jurisdictional test. So the button is actually going to be pushed over in Ingham County to send out this alert, but it's going to hit the Tri-County area because we have some different agreements in place that allow us to do that. We're unique in that way. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to receive an alert on your phone very similar to an Amber Alert if you've ever got one of those. It's a really loud, shrill, vibrates a bunch, but these are alerts that are used particularly for public safety or even more importantly, imminent life threat situations that we have the ability to push out here at the county level. And we are going to do the first cross-jurisdictional test in the nation to the best of our knowledge, which is kind of cool. It's going to occur at 12:59 p.m. 1 minute later, all the outdoor warning sirens are gonna go off. A bunch of other alerting and opt-in alerting is gonna go through 911. We're gonna talk more about that in the coming months, but I just wanted to start getting that out there. You're gonna see a lot more push in terms of informing the public on that, probably about mid-February. And then coordinating that with our other tri-county agencies to make sure the word is out there. So that way, no one's surprised. But that is coming. That'll be 12:59 p.m. on March 19th, right before the voluntary statewide tornado drill. So just FYI. But that is all that I have, unless you have questions.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Those alerts, will that be something that the public will have to hit a button or a link to get those reports in the future, or is it just something that?
No, that is built into your phones, and there's not much workaround out that. So it actually has the ability to kind of take over your cell phone for a very brief amount of time. And again, that's why we only issue these in a live scenario if it's a really, really bad day.
Yeah.
They're reserved for very specific criteria and triggers. But to test that capability is kind of a new thing. The FCC really didn't like you doing it, and they kind of relieved some of those limitations, if you will, recently. So we're going to give it a shot. Multi-jurisdictional test, first in the country.
Interesting. Other questions for Ryan?
I got one.
Commissioner Arndt?
What's the difference between a goal and an objective?
Great. So goal, really high level, overarching, what you kind of foresee, something that you want to do. Objective, what you want to accomplish specifically, right? And then the milestones, all the stuff that'll get you to accomplishing your objective, which will hopefully get you to check off your goal.
All right, other questions for Ryan? All right, thanks, Ryan, for the report. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Up next, we have prosecutor's office for report.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Lloyd, and I am your Eaton County Prosecutor. Thank you. I was just recently added to the agenda. The Prosecutor's Office has not generally come to public safety in the past unless we had a specific request. We have not given monthly reports. We've left that to 911 and emergency management, who obviously, as you can tell, do a great job, not only in their job, but actually doing reports. So you'll have to forgive me if mine is not as polished as the ones that they prepare each month. But after the last 6 or 8 months of actually being on the campaign trail for the last millage that we tried to do for operating millage, and for the public safety millage that has now been placed by the board for this coming May, the prosecutor's office felt that it was important that we actually get out in front of you, public safety, and actually try to let you know what the prosecutor's office does. And so you'll have to forgive me. Normally, well, I have a tendency to talk long, but I actually, because of all our responsibilities, this time I actually wrote it down. And so it may take me a little bit of time to actually get through the 500+ responsibilities that we have. And no, I'm not going to go through every specific one, but I think it's important that you actually understand what we do, because we are the end result of what everything else you've heard about. All the issues that the sheriff talked about, dispatch talked about, even emergency management talked about. At the end of the day, they're all going to end up at my doorstep. Under state law and court rules, your prosecutor's office has more than 500 mandated responsibility. Including the prosecuting attorney, this office has 11 attorneys, 15 support staffs, and a canine advocate that work on behalf of all of you and each citizen of Eaton County to do what is right and to protect our community. We are forced to make tough decisions utilizing a wide breadth of discretion to do what we believe is right, not just for a single individual, but the community as a whole. The burden is not one that we carry lightly, and one that we work very hard to carry and do effectively. Prosecutors are not just plug and play. The job requires experience, intellect, and compassion. Decisions that prosecutors make daily are based on what we deem to be the best for the people of Eaton County and the victims of crime. We are accountable to the 109,000 plus people of the county, not just a single individual. And while we are prosecuting crimes for which the evidence shows have been committed, we are also ethically bound to ensure the accused are treated fairly and that their rights are protected. That's why prosecutors are considered to have a dual role. We have to make sure that a defendant receives their fair day in court, but yet if they are guilty of a crime, that they are held accountable for those crimes. That's one responsibility. But if there is a victim of that crime, the victims have a constitutional right to be treated fairly and to be heard within that courtroom. It is our responsibility as prosecutors to make sure the victims are heard as well. We expect the best from our staff, who in all honesty are overworked due to staffing levels. The office has not been fully staffed with attorneys since 2020 due to turnover and the inability to find quality attorneys or those interested in public service. Because as I'll speak about later, public service is a wonderful thing, but it's not something that you volunteer to do. You actually do expect to get paid. Based on the caseloads we handle, we should have 5 or 6 more attorneys than we currently have allotted in our office. We ask a lot of our attorneys who are employees who are exempt from overtime. They work nights and weekends for free to catch up on screenings. Screenings would be the cases that come into our office that they must review to make a determination of whether we are going to charge an offense, or to prepare for court, because in reality, they simply can't get their job done between 8 to 5. We ask them to look at awful photographs and videos, and to listen to awful descriptions of abuse that they may never known have occurred, to hear the pain of a victim who was swindled out of their assets by a defendant who just had a drug problem and has never been given the chance to pursue treatment. The job is daunting in reality, and some days can be brutal, and the stress and pain can take a toll. Outside of low-level misdemeanors committed within the city limits of Charlotte, Eaton Rapids, and Grand Ledge, anytime law enforcement investigates and recommends charges for a criminal offense that occurred within Eaton County, our office, the Eaton County Prosecutor's Office, is the one tasked with reviewing those matters. Our office prosecutes matters referred from more than a dozen law enforcement agencies that operate in the county. Numerous merchants, because merchants themselves can refer cases to our office without having to go through police. MDHHS, SOS, and Eaton RESA. These matters occur in every township, village, and city in the county. Last year, we reviewed and made charging decisions on more than 5,000 cases and were noticed to attend more than 10,000 hearings here in the courtrooms in Eaton County. But our responsibilities are actually much broader than just that. We prosecute criminal ordinance violations for Delta Township, generating revenue for the township and the county. We prosecute juvenile delinquency cases for any juvenile who resides in Eaton County, regardless of where the crime is committed. Because in reality, the crime could have occurred in Clare County, but yet if the juvenile lives in Eaton County, we are going to be responsible for prosecuting that case. It's how it works under the law. We are responsible for child support. We handle appellant matters. We have staff on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We respond to crime scenes. We work with schools and law enforcement to ensure the safety of our kids and the community. We meet with victims during the most traumatic times of their lives, sit with children who physically manifest the emotional trauma they've suffered when recounting their child abuse, and pursue justice because that is what the public deserves. We strive to do the best for the public, knowing we do not get a second chance if we make a mistake. Now, of those 5,000 cases that we bring in a year, on average, we divert or deny charges in nearly a third of those cases we receive. That's why, in reality, that the prosecutor is actually called the public defender, because we receive all of those cases, and we are the initial group that determines whether an individual should even be charged with a crime. Meaning that if law enforcement has not produced the required information, or if we feel that the crime has not occurred, we are going to deny that case ourselves. We are protecting the rights of the defendant before anyone else has the responsibility to even do so. But of course, this can only occur after one of our attorneys takes the time to thoroughly review police reports, watch video. Now, I don't know if the sheriff has his on today, but every one of his officers, every officer in our county, in reality, Sheriff Reich was one of the first counties, if not the first county within the state to actually employ body cam. So when an officer shows up to a scene, he is wearing a device on his chest, a body cam, that is taking video. If there are 4 officers at a scene, there are 4 videos going. Each car has in-camera video, dash cam video. That all must be reviewed by my attorneys when they're reviewing a case to determine whether that case is worthy to actually be prosecuted. They also have to communicate with those involved, whether it be the police officers on the investigation itself, the victims of the crime, or witnesses in general. Those cases that we deny never make it to court and never necessitate the review of a defender's office. But they required the review of my office in order to make that determination whether we would charge or not. We also have a diversion program. It's called the Economic Crime Unit. It's located out of the Lansing Mall. It was created in 2002 with the idea that certain crimes occur. Initially, it was bad checks. Businesses were receiving bad checks, and they had nowhere to go with them, even though it was a criminal offense. The Economic Crime Unit was created in 2002, and since it has been created, we have diverted thousands of cases and returned more than $9.6 million to area merchants. On top of that, not only returning those businesses those monies that they lost, we kept all of those individuals out of the criminal justice system while helping them learn a lesson and getting them to move on to a different course than the course they were heading on before entering the criminal system. The Economic Crime Unit has never cost the county a dime, generating enough revenue annually to cover its operations and often providing the access to the general fund, which then helps fund my office as well. On top of that, we provide support, assistance, and notice to victims of crime, members of our community who do not ask to be involved in the legal system, but become involved by the choices and actions of the defendant themselves. Think about it. I've mentioned it before. Some of you are on the board, have heard it. Some of you knew, may not. A judge got elected to that position. Prosecutor decided to do that for public service. A defense attorney went to school as well to do their job. The defendant, well, the allegations are he did something to end up there. That victim, they never asked to participate. They're the one party who never asked to be a part, were never asked, were never given the choice. They were thrown into a system they didn't want to be a part of, but here they are. And now that they're here, they have the right to be heard. And that's what my victim advocates do as a part of the prosecutor's office. On top of that, we participate in 6 specialty courts. We participate in the Eaton County Child Death Review Team and numerous committees or groups at the local and state level. We provide training, education, and legal assistance to law enforcement. We review search warrants, prosecute probation violations, bond violations, and mental commitment hearings. Review and respond to early probation, discharge, and parole requests. Represent people who have obtained a personal protection order when the order is violated and the offender will not acknowledge the wrongdoing. For the county, we conduct veteran preference hearings, provide legal assistance to various county departments on a range of topics such as FOIA, firearms rights restoration, contracts, code violations, election law violations, public health code violations, and drain code violations. We coordinate the extradition of individuals from other states, assist out-of-state agencies and indigent defendants with service of subpoenas, and annually review dozens of applications to set aside previous convictions. This is what makes us unique, because these are all responsibilities. And these are the responsibilities that fall on my 25 staff, my 11 attorneys, and my 14 legal assistants. See, unlike the state-funded Defender's Office, which is located here in Eaton County, we don't have the liberty of using private attorneys to assist us when we become bogged down. The Defender's Office has the ability to call out conflict counsel or overflow counsel when they become too inundated with cases in their office. When my office becomes too inundated with cases, I smile nicely at my employees and give them a hug and a pat on the back and thank them for working harder. They spend thousands of dollars to hire outside attorneys to represent the individuals for them because they feel overwhelmed with the work that they do. Just to give an example, this conflict counsel that I talk about makes money from the Defender's Office, and they get paid hourly to do so. Whereas, as an example, my chief assistant, Chris Anderson, and one of my APAs, Brenna Hendrick, did a murder trial last spring. They averaged over 60 hours a week preparing and trying a homicide case, while only being paid for 40 hours a week. The conflict or overflow attorney who was brought in to handle that case during that same amount of time was paid $150 an hour, because that's the amount that the state has agreed that they will pay conflict attorneys to do the work. So it's a wonder that people don't want to do public service, but would rather be in the private sector making the money. Because I'm asking my attorneys to do the work for less, whereas they can go out into the private sector and say more. So it's important that you understand all of these things that we are talking about. And as the months go by, I will continue to bring you examples of things that we have done, the amount of cases that we are handling in a month, the motions that we are dealing with, some of which you will see are not good motions, but motions that waste our time, because everything that is sent to us and everything that is brought to us are things that my attorneys must deal with. People seem to have this belief that my attorneys basically sit around and drink coffee until a judge calls them to come to court. In all reality, that's not how it works. Law enforcement works very difficult hours and works very hard to bring us cases, but all those cases must be reviewed by us. And it's only then, after we make that decision, will the courts or the defender's office ever get involved. So if you hear that we all do the same thing, that's not true. Because on average, 30% more cases than will ever see the light of day in a courtroom or a defender's office will have been reviewed by my office, along with the other 500 mandates that I have. So as I move forward, it'll be my goal to present that to you. I hope this made a little sense. It may have been a little overwhelming, but as you have to understand, I do. I carry 500 mandates. There are a lot of things, say, an example of veterans preference hearing. If you don't know what that is, Connie Sobey can explain it to you. But it's something that's a responsibility as the elected prosecutor I've always taken on myself. But it is one of the responsibilities of my office. And so, thank you, Chairman. I appreciate you allowing us to join the Public Safety Committee, and we will look forward, either myself, and I guess I'll ask Chris if you could stand up. And this is Chris Anderson. He is my chief assistant. I would expect, a lot of you know him already. If you have not had the opportunity to meet him, great guy. Obviously, he is my chief assistant. Either one of us will be here to speak. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Doug, for coming in and giving us that information, wealth of information, some things people don't think about. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Questions for Attorney Lloyd, or prosecuting attorney, Commissioner, Commissioner Christensen, sorry. Learning names still.
So if the public safety millage passes this time, will that allow your office to prosecute more offenders that are not technically being prosecuted right now?
No, let me explain it this way, if I can. I have been working in this particular office for 25 years. I've been a prosecutor for 30 years. In 30 years, I've never turned down a case that was worthy to be prosecuted. I mean, we make the determinations, right, of what cases are to be prosecuted, but we've never said no to a case if it's there to be prosecuted. We've never looked at a victim and said, oh, sorry, you have other avenues. You could take this civilly. We don't need to prosecute it criminally. We're going to handle that. And in reality, this millage is going to allow us to hopefully continue to do that. It's going to allow us to look at recruitment and retention, which are two things that are lacking. I have lost, and I'd ask Controller Sobey to help me, but I would guess over 100 years of experience in the last 5 years between legal assistants and attorneys who have left to go to the Attorney General's office, where they are working less amount of work. And in reality, some of those attorneys are making more than me, and I'm the highest paid individual in the office. But they make more than me to work at the Attorney General's office. And they all came from Eaton County. They were all trained in Eaton County. And we lost 100 years of experience when I lost those individuals as they moved on. So I guess the way to look at it is if this public safety millage does not pass, I will be coming back to Public Safety, Ways and Means, the General Board, and I will be looking at you saying that, my people are burned out. They can't work. for the amount of people that we have or the dollars that we have, I will be looking at closing to the public for certain days. And in all reality, I'll be honest about it, I'm already considering what crimes do we have to look at and just go, there's a civil ramification. I will not be prosecuting these crimes. So it's a different way to look at it than you're asking, Commissioner Christensen, but that's the reality is right now, through this September 30th, I have a full budget. I have worn out people, but they love their jobs and they want to help people, and that's what we're going to do. But if this millage does not pass, then I will be looking at ways to protect my employees from ultimate burnout, and that will be by cutting services at the prosecutor's office.
All right, I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Other questions? Connie?
I want to do something that Prosecutor Lloyd loves so much. I just want to correct something that he said earlier. Well, someone in my office did not correct me at the board meeting, so I would like to just do that for you. When you were talking about your staff, you mentioned the number of attorneys, and then you said the remaining staff were all legal assistants. I just want to make sure that the board understands it's not legal assistants that make up the prosecutor's office. So by statutory requirement, correct me on any of this if I'm wrong, the prosecutor has to have a victim witness unit. He has 2.5 positions. One, he shares his office manager, his executive assistant, does 2 jobs essentially. So that's 2.5 people, so not just a basic assistant. He has a child support unit in which he generates revenue from the federal government at 66%. The court's front of the court unit, which is child support, does the same, and he has 2 individuals there. The economic crimes unit has an attorney, 1 attorney assigned, a detective, and 2 financial assistants that deal with all of the financials for the economic crimes unit. What he told you is a significant amount of money that they've brought in going back to merchants and to the state of Michigan. And then within his own office, he has an investigator who also manages the felony cases. Significant amount of responsibility for that position. His office manager, who's a supervisor that I mentioned, who also does the victim witness work, and then 6 legal assistants. So I just want you to know it's more than just legal assistants, it's support staff, and it's a big diversity of what he has people do, and I'm really sorry, Prosecutor Lloyd, because I know you're looking at me like,
No, I'm sure my staff is actually listening, and you are now the cool kid. I'm sure that, that is why Controller Sobey is usually like, she rocks, is what you may hear, the whispers in the courthouse occasionally from other, from staff, because she is absolutely right. Everyone, I generalize those people, and that's unfair because they know, to me, how important each one of those individuals are. But for time, I was trying to condense it.
well, I didn't, so
I know, and I appreciate, but they appreciate that. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Other questions for Prosecuting Attorney Doug Lloyd? Thank you, Doug. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on next, miscellaneous. And I do have some things to say here. I'll start this off, and then afterwards, commissioners have comments, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. We are lucky, if you're here on the Public Safety Committee for the first time as the new commissioners in this room, we are very lucky to have managers like Doug Lloyd, prosecuting attorney's office, Kelly Cunningham from the 911 Center, Ryan Wilkinson from Emergency Management, and Tom Reich as our sheriff. When these people talk, I listen. And we need to do the same thing when they come in here and figure out what can we do as a board to make these guys' lives easier. All right, so I appreciate you guys all being here. I think it's a really important committee, and I'm passionate about it, and we're gonna try to do a good job this year. All right, some other things, public safety millage. I met with Prosecuting Attorney Doug Lloyd and Sheriff Tom Reich in December, kind of popped in their office and asked them, what are some things, what can we do for you, and what getting this public safety millage passed, what will it mean for you? I think the common thing was basically retention, and pay, keeping these people here. They do a very good job, and that's our responsibility to try to make that happen. You know, as I go out in the community lately, I've talked to several different people. I've gotten phone calls. I've gotten threats. Yeah, three kind of people out there right now when it comes to this public safety millage. Some families will say, yeah, you know, sounds great, Tim, public safety, it means a lot to my family and I. We'd like to keep our families safe, and, you know, it's going to cost a little more money, but we'll vote for it. That's group one. Group two are the people that say, and I had a gentleman call me, very upset about this, said, you're trying to fearmonger us. You are trying to basically say, if we don't do this, we won't have any police. And they said, well, you know, if I call 911, someone's going to show up anyways. You're just trying to fearmonger us. So I said, well, you know, if it doesn't pass, and, you know, we have like state police that are covering 3 counties at one time, and you have your emergency, depends where they are. Are they at Northern Ionia County when you call? So, you know, there's those people. Then a third group are people that say, hey, forget it. We don't want taxes going up. I'll take care of what comes to my front door. But yeah, remember too, you also need, you know, you need prosecuting attorneys and things like that to cover these crimes. So to me, I think we have to do our best we can about putting this public safety millage out there. I know it's quick. I know it's right after the November 1. It didn't pass. But this is specifically for public safety. To me, this is a big deal. We're not talking about park benches and putting solar panels in cornfields. All right, this is a big thing. So we got to go out there and do the best we can getting this information out there. You've heard a lot of information today. Get that out there. Talk to your neighbors, friends, you know, anyone you can. So that's a really big thing, and hopefully we can make this pass. If it doesn't pass, like Isabella County, we'll deal with that when it comes to it. But I think that's a big thing we need to make sure we get out there and do our best to educate our people. So hopefully we're going to our township meetings, village meetings, things like that. I'll be doing so. And let's see, what else can I say real quick here? I don't say usually a lot, but I had some things to say today. Yeah, so then the next thing too, well, I'll say that for later time. But let's just, like I said, let's try to get behind this if we can and see if we can get this to pass. I looked up my house, what it would do to me if we do the public safety millage. I'd be paying $11.14 a month, and that would be a grand total of $133.72 a year. I understand depending on how much property you own, that can change. I get that. But it just gives you people an idea of what we're talking about. All right, other commissioners, miscellaneous comments. Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring the attention that it's National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and thank you very much to all of our law enforcement that we have, not only within the county, but the city and the state as well.
Thank you.
That is all.
Yes, thanks for everything. Other commissioner comments, miscellaneous. All right, seeing none, last limited public comment. Limited public comment. Hi, Claire.
So I'm the court administrator for the courts. I just wanted to introduce myself, and we recently were added under the Public Safety Committee, so you will be seeing myself or our Deputy Court Administrator, Kathy Brooks, or potentially any of our judges here for these meetings and providing updates as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Something new for us, but you will see our faces, and we will hopefully come with some reports and give you an update on what things are happening in the courts side of things and all our departments that we utilize, our youth facility. Melanie Achenbach, our Director of Community Corrections, is here, and she historically has been at all the public safety meetings, so you'll see her face as well, and she can give some updates with regards to her office. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to it. Any other limited public comment? Seeing none, we'll adjourn to February 6th.